Morning, and Mike's on. Francesa on the Fan in the afternoon.
John Jastrzemski, Sports Radio 101.9 FM and Sports Radio 66 WFAN.
Alrighty, let's roll, baby. It is 2:07 here on this early Sunday, a 4-hour jam-packed edition of JJ After Dark. That's right. John Jastrzemski keeping you company right here on the Fan. Want to hear from you. Join the conversation, 877-337-6666. You got my main man, Pennsylvania's finest. It's going to be a bloody Sunday for me and you, pal. Matt Casey across the way on the other side of the glass. You have the mighty Max Sermon with the updates every 20 minutes with you for the next 4 hours. With you up until 6 o'clock, Bobby Salter. Public Affairs program coming your way then. Fan right here in New York City. I hope everybody is having an outstanding weekend here. But if you're a fan of the New York baseball teams, even though we are going to have postseason baseball for both the Yankees and the Mets for the first time since 2006, the Met fan on edge, the Yankee fan on edge, as we head into the final Sunday here of the regular season. And we have so much to get into. Don't worry. We'll get to my dumpster fire of a football team known as the Miami Dolphins playing your beloved New York Jets. 9:30. We're still trying to figure out why in the world I'm going to get up and watch that garbage, but we'll get into that in a little bit. We'll get to the Giants and their trip to Orchard Park, New York against Rex Ryan and the Buffalo Bills. A crazy Saturday in college football. Had a losing week. I'm a little disappointed when it comes to the unlocks of the week. So we got a lot to do. There is no question about it. There is no doubt about that. We got a lot to do in this 4-hour program, but we begin with the baseball. And it was just a flat-out lousy Saturday for both of the New York locals. They're both playing doubleheaders against teams that are out of the postseason here in the Washington Nationals and the Baltimore Orioles. And the Yankees and the Mets both go out there and get swept in their doubleheaders, respectively. Let's start with the Mets. The Mets are in a position where they're already in the postseason, per se. They're already in the division series. They know who their opponent is going to be. But they had an opportunity to show you some sort of fight here, to make some sort of push for home field advantage. And it was abundantly clear to me, looking at the performance from the Mets over the last week, with the way they played here against the Washington Nationals on Saturday, home field advantage is not a number one priority. Now, if you remember the last time the New York Mets got no hit, I was on the air. Chris Heston, the immortal Chris Heston, went out there and shut down the New York Mets. I killed the Mets to the high heavens. The lineup was a flat-out embarrassment. It was before Yoenis Cespedes came to town. It's before they acquired Juan Uribe and Kelly Johnson and called up Michael Conforto. The lineup the Mets were running out there back in June was an absolute disgrace. This Met lineup that you saw here against Scherzer, it was rather similar. Now, the Mets looked lifeless. They were awful. Their at-bats were terrible against Max Scherzer. However, Scherzer on Saturday gave you one of the best pitching performances you'll ever see. He was that good. I don't care if you were running the 27 Yankees out there. They were going to struggle against Max Scherzer on Saturday night. His stuff was electric. It was nasty. And you should just be thankful as a Met fan that Max Scherzer did not give you that sort of performance in the biggest game of the year for the Washington Nationals, Monday, Labor Day, when the Mets were able to come back down 5-3. Scherzer didn't have his ace stuff then. He had it here on Saturday night. And Scherzer now has thrown 2 no-hitters in this 2015 season. But when the Nationals really needed him the most, against the New York Mets, guy was nowhere to be found. So he's a great pitcher. He's had a wonderful year. But that is certainly a blemish as far as I'm concerned when it comes to the Washington Nationals and the season that Max Scherzer had. Now for the Mets, they are going into the postseason, into this series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, scuffling. You can make the argument, well, they shouldn't be resting players. They're in the dance. They're in the tournament. To me, home field advantage for the New York Mets, it's really not that big of a deal. I really do not think it's that big of a deal because you're in the division series. You're in a spot now where you know who your opponent's going to be. You know you're going to have to beat Clayton Kershaw, whether it's at Dodger Stadium or at Citi Field. Mets played pretty darn well at Dodger Stadium, if I'm not mistaken. Then they go out there with no lineup and win 2 out of 3. It's going to be a tall order beating these guys no matter where you play them. That's how dynamic, that's how talented Kershaw and Greinke are in a best-of-5 series. And we've been saying this over and over again. If the Mets are going to beat the Los Angeles Dodgers, they need their pitchers at the top of the rotation. Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard, Matt Harvey to answer the bell. Now with the Mets not having home field advantage, Syndergaard's going to have to pitch twice on the road. We know his splits on the road, not great. But he did pitch well at Dodger Stadium. That's the way the Mets should go about this. DeGrom should go game 1. He will. Syndergaard should go game 2. Looked very good on Saturday. Harvey going game 3. Training wheels off. He looked pretty damn good on Saturday night against the Washington Nationals, even though the Nationals were throwing you a AAA lineup. Nonetheless, good job by Harvey. I'm not freaking out over the Mets getting no hit. I know you guys are probably going to call me crazy. You're going to say, JJ, have you lost your mind? But the Mets are in a situation now where they're going to have to ramp up the pedal and metal. I'm more concerned, quite frankly, with the other team in town. Here's why. The other team in town, the New York Yankees, they're not in the division series yet. They don't have 3 or 4 days to rest here. It would certainly behoove them to make sure they're playing a wild card game or winning in at Yankee Stadium. And the Yankees, after flushing away the division title of Toronto, where Toronto played out of their minds here in the second half of this year, when it looked like the Yankees pretty much were a surefire lock to be the top wild card in the American League, now on the last day of the year, they need to beat the Baltimore Orioles? Are you kidding me? The Yankees, after clinching on Thursday, handled this situation on Saturday terribly. I don't understand for the life of me why you would split the regulars and not just go for the kill in game 1 with Luis Severino. You want to make sure you have that wild card game at home. Here's the difference between the Yankees and the Mets. The Mets are in a best-of-5 series. The Yankees are playing a winning in. Do you want to finish the regular season Sunday? Wait on Monday, perhaps, to see where in the world you're going. And with the way the AL West is playing out, between Houston, between Anaheim, between Texas, who knows at this point? You could be a variety of different places. I'd rather be sitting on my couch. I'd rather be in my own home, rested up, knowing full well that that Tuesday night game is going to be in my building. You throw in the other wrinkle that the Houston Astros, if indeed they get home field advantage in the wild card game, are going to have a pitcher who is probably the AL Cy Young Award winner, who's been undefeated at home. You like the prospect of that? And the Yankees have lost 5 out of 6 games. They get swept in this doubleheader here by the Baltimore Orioles. And the Orioles, you know full well, are going to be a pain in the neck on Sunday. And you'll love what Major League Baseball decided to do here. Playing every single game at 3 o'clock doesn't mean much for the Mets now that you know that you're going to be on the road Friday against the Los Angeles Dodgers in the division series. But for Anaheim and Texas, for Houston and Arizona, for the Yankees and Baltimore, all these games going on at the same time, everybody's got to go full tilt. They're trying to recapture what happened back in 2011 when you had that wild 162. I don't think it's going to be that insane here, because I don't think you have that many wrinkles to this playoff possibility. Essentially, you have 2 spots up for grabs, AL West and the AL wildcard. The Angels need help. The Rangers, at the very least, are in a playing game. The Astros, at the very least, are in a playing game. But a lot on the line for the New York Yankees on Sunday. Here's why. They need to stop the bleeding. Now, we can dissect throughout the course of this show whether or not the Yankees and the Mets are in the right frame of mind for the postseason. Clearly, neither team, from what you've seen over the last week, over the last 2 weeks, looks like a team that's ready for the month of October. However, this has been discussed quite a bit. I'm going to bring it up again right now. There is no direct correlation, one way or another, to success in September necessarily meaning that you're going to have success in the month of October. Clearly, this Yankee team does not come close to resembling the 2000 Yankees. I think we'd all agree. This Yankee team's been out of the playoffs the last 2 years. The 2000 Yankees were fresh off back-to-back World Series championships. They were allowed to slump and scuffle in the month of September like they did. The Yankees in 2000 were one of the worst September teams I've ever seen in my life. And the Yankees pretty much tried to give the AL East to the Boston Red Sox that year. They got into the dance. They got into the tournament. They got hot at the right time. They beat the Oakland A's. They beat the Seattle Mariners. They beat the Mets, and they won the World Series. You remember in 2006 when every Yankee fan, when the Yankees won 100-plus games, won 98 games, and were the best team in baseball over the second half of the year, they were dying to play the Detroit Tigers. I was dying to see the Detroit Tigers. Game 1 at Yankee Stadium. The Tigers were one of the worst teams in the second half that year. They limped into the postseason, choked away the AL Central. Yankees won Game 1. Jeter went 5 for 5, hit a ball into the black seats. Everybody was thinking the Yankees were going to crush Detroit that year. The Yankees lost the series in 4 games. There's no rhyme or reason to the postseason. If you get in, you get hot at the right time, you make the push, you make the run. What's troubling for the Yankees, they don't have that best of 5 in their back pocket. They're playing in a wild card game. In that sort of situation, I want to make sure I'm playing it at home. I want to make sure Tanaka's good to go. I don't see Dallas Keuchel in a place where he's undefeated. And the Yankees just look all out of sorts. They don't have mojo. They're not scoring runs. They look like a dead baseball team. That could change come Tuesday. But as far as my concern level with the New York baseball locals, not even close. I am a lot more concerned about the New York Yankees. 2:18, we get this Sunday edition of JJ After Dark rolling right here on the Fan. I want to hear from you. 877-337-6666. Mets swept in a doubleheader. No hit in the process. Yankees swept in a doubleheader. Who are you more concerned about going into this postseason? To me, it's the Yankees. We get it rolling with your calls right after this.